Hey guys, Loot Wizard here with another video on Gems of War, and in this one I wanted to go over a team that I think works pretty good for King Bloodwood, which is the new mythic troop for this month. So there's a few troops here that are actually quite useful that aren't really even legendary status, so if you were lucky enough to get King Bloodwood, you can probably acquire these other troops pretty easily. So it starts out with Bog Strider, which when you upgrade it, it does destroy quite a few gems. For me, it is destroying 19 gems, and then it entangles a random enemy, which is important. But the other thing that's important is it does act as a pretty good tank, and that's why it's in the first spot. So what it does here when you unlock its traits, it will inflict entangle when doing skull damage, which entangle will reduce the enemy's attack by 0, its attack damage, which is the skull damage, to 0 for a certain time. But it also reduces skull damage to itself by 33%. Of course, once it entangles the enemy, that skull damage will be reduced to 0. So it is a mana generator as well as a tank. But as we'll see here with King Bloodwood, its entangle is very important. So when it destroys gems, it'll entangle a random enemy, and when it does skull damage, it will inflict entangle. Now I have Mountain Crusher in the second spot. I'm using the Titan class, but you can use any class that you want. I do recommend a class that starts with half mana, but it'll still work even without that. So yeah, Mountain Crusher is great because it will explode brown gems, and if you do have the Mountain Crusher weapon upgraded with ingots, it will create a dust storm after it being cast, which is great because that'll give us more brown mana on the board, and that is one of the main ways we're going to get King Bloodwood fully up so we can cast it. Between Bog Strider and Mountain Crusher, you should get King Bloodwood fully powered up within probably 2 to 3 turns. So King Bloodwood does 29 heavy splash damage to an enemy, which heavy splash damage, it's going to be doing 75% of its initial damage to adjacent troops. But this damage is boosted by entangled and bleeding enemies. Then it will steal 10 life from all enemies. Now, its trait, it does entangle and bleed a random enemy on matching 4 or more gems. So it has that going for it, which you'll probably get those 4 matches with Mountain Crusher. But we're not really going to rely on that in this team because we have Bog Strider, who is going to be entangling a random enemy when cast, and it will inflict entangle when you do skull damage with it. And then finally, in the 4th base, I have the Horned Asp troop, which can be acquired in the Fang Moor faction in the Underworld. Once you get enough Chaos shards, you should be able to open some portals and get that troop without too much difficulty. So, but what's great about this troop is that it deals splash damage to an enemy, and then it will inflict bleed and poison on all enemies hit by this spell. So, splash damage, it'll probably bleed at least 3 troops when cast, plus doing that damage. So again, bleed is important because King Bloodwood is going to have its damage boosted by entangled and bleeding enemies. So between Bog Strider and the Horned Asp, you're going to have troops entangled, and you're going to have bleed going on. So the damage that it's boosted by is no small matter. The boost ratio is 8. So let's say if you have every single troop, enemy troop, 4 of them, entangled, and all of them have bleed on it, you're going to have 8 multiplied by 8 is extra damage going on, which is a lot. Now, in most cases, you're not going to have every single enemy troop with bleed and entangle on it, but, you know, there's a potential there for some pretty good damage. Now, the banner that I'm using is the rat banner, which gives us double brown and 1 green. And the brown is for Mountain Crusher here, and that will go into King Bloodwood, all the overflow of brown. And then the green is obviously for Bog Strider, but green can go down to King Bloodwood as well. And the blue, negative blue, doesn't affect me at all because the Horned Asp is using red and purple mana. So, yeah, that's my team. Let's go and do a battle with it. Now, it's not the most powerful team in the game. Obviously, there's a lot of other good Mythic troops and teams that I think are better than this setup, but, you know, this one is still pretty fun to use. So, there we have it. It was like 2 turns. I have King Bloodwood fully powered up, and I actually already have Entangle and Bleed on 2 troops. So now we have it on 3, because there was a 5 match there, and King Bloodwood will inflict Bleed and Entangle. So now I have a choice here. I could try to bleed Karnax, but it is immune to all status effects, Devour and whatever, so I'm not going to be able to entangle or bleed Karnax. So we're just going to go ahead and cast King Bloodwood. And we might as well cast the Asp. And that just pretty much killed everything. We got Karnax to deal with, but and we only have 1 left. And the Horned Asp should take care of that. And we can do 1 more battle, but as you can see, it has a pretty good synergy between the Bog Strider and the Horned Asp. And Mountain Crusher is just great for the mana generation. What I try to do is get King Bloodwood up first before I cast the Horned Asp, because this bleed, the enemy troops do have a chance to recover from the bleed and the entangle. So you want to have that negative status effect on the enemy before you cast King Bloodwood. So we're gonna go ahead and cast the Horned Asp here, get bleed on those other 2 troops, and now we're gonna go ahead and cast King Bloodwood, and that was some pretty good damage there. And King Bloodwood is up again. Eh. 1 health on that. It's fine though, we got it. Bam. Yeah, so there you go, guys. That's a pretty good team, I think, with King Bloodwood. I'm sure there's some other good troops out there that'll work good with it too, but that is one that I recommend for right now. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks again for watching and listening as always. Later.